Good morning and a huge welcome. I hope you are all well. Michelle and I are good here in Istanbul. It is Wednesday, the 25th of March. There's not been a huge amount of changes here in Istanbul. The government have not made any major announcements. The health minister the other day, I think yesterday, made one announcement. There is a lot of misinformation on social media. So he said, I want to make it clear that we're not in lockdown here in Turkey. We have asked pensioners over the age of 65 to stay home, and they're trying to enforce that. But generally, it's pretty much business as normal, although cafes have closed. And well, not business as normal then, really. Cafes have closed. They're still doing a takeout service, a lot of the cafes and restaurants. Supermarkets are open. You saw the market was open on the weekend. So not a lot of change. The market was a bit hairy because there was a lot of people crammed into a small area. But generally, we're finding that Turkish people here in Istanbul anyway are practicing what they've been told, which is social distancing. They're keeping away from each other in the shops and supermarkets. You will see in smaller stores that people are queuing up and going in one at a time, which is great. And out on the streets, generally people are keeping their distance, which is a good thing. They're still encouraging people to get their daily exercise. So not saying really stay indoors, but when you're out there, be sensible, give social distancing between people. Don't go up hugging and kissing everybody. Now, Michelle and I, yesterday, we didn't really go out much. The weather was appalling. It was damp. It was cold. It was bitterly cold, actually. But today we are going to go out, even though the weather's much the same, because you can stay in these apartments. It's really not healthy to be indoors all day long breathing this stale air. And I really love to get out and have a walk every day, at least a few kilometers. So we're going to go out on the streets now. We'll have a chat with you about face masks, whether or not you should wear them. Some comments in the last video about that, and I want to clarify my thoughts. So anyway, I hope you enjoy this little walk around Istanbul and a chat and an update. See you out on the streets. Those lamps are pretty, Michelle. Don't you miss Queensland where you could just slip on a pair of sandals and go straight out? It takes so long. It's freezing today. It takes so long to get ready to go out. Okay, look at the little bakers below us. Good morning. Right, we'll get some simit before we go, shall we, Michelle? Okay. Nobody's in there. Dirt simit. Oh, thank you. Teşekkürler. Oh,
buyurun efendim. İkram.
Thank you.
İyi günler.
Thank you. Now, one thing, all these carts here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 carts, 9 carts. Ordinarily, guys come and collect big piles of cement and take those carts away every day and sell them on the street. So that side of the business has stopped. The little supermarkets, our little corner shop. Good morning. How are you?
Thank you.
Good. He's open every day till midnight. Got these cookies now, Michelle. Now,
we get our water from him, don't we?
We get our water from him. If I end up with bits of cookie in my teeth the whole vlog, I'll be a little bit annoyed, but you'll forgive me. Now we also got the guy doing these, look at these beautiful tomatoes. Not for me. Now seeing him with his mask on, might as well talk about that now. Not a lot of people, some people said in the last video, why are you not wearing a mask? A lot of people don't wear masks, and for many years now, even from the last outbreak, the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, and most credible health institutes are saying they do not advise wearing masks for healthy people. In fact, they're saying that they would prefer it if people didn't wear masks. There's actually some pretty credible reasons for not wearing a mask. This disease, for example, is spread by touch. There you go. Gosh, there's a cold wind. Do you think that'll be picking up the sound at all? Now, the reason the CDC actually say, don't wear masks can make quite quite a lot of sense for two reasons. One is, you've got this mask over your face, so you're breathing in sort of damp, stale air the whole time that's being sort of recycled. But more importantly, this disease is spread, or this virus is spread by touch. So it's when you touch things and then you put it to your face, to your mouth, and to your eyes. Now if you're wearing a mask, you're constantly adjusting the mask, pulling it down, pinching it across the nose. If you do that, the chances are, if you actually, touch a door, take some infected change, and then you sort of pull the mask down or put the mask up, you're actually going to put the virus onto the mask, and it will be there, up against your face, up against your lips. You're more likely to get infected that way. You'd be better off being cautious of what you touch or wearing gloves. But masks really have been proven time and time again to be ill-effective and perhaps even more dangerous. Now, that's my thoughts. It's not recent revelation. I've thought that for a long time, and it's backed up by the CDC and many credible health authorities. Now, there'll be lots of people out there giving different information. Truly, I don't care. We're not going to be wearing masks unless we're absolutely forced to, because I personally think it's more dangerous to have a mask on your face and constantly adjusting it with your hands, which is where you're going to pick the virus up from. Got these little spikes on the road. Isn't that odd? These spikes on the road here are to stop people driving down the road. But it's on a hill start at the top of the hill, and sometimes vehicles stop there, and I always think if they roll back just a little bit. Should we go into the city, Michelle?
I think so.
We probably should just check with our landlord quickly. I've checked online, but he's pretty good. He'll tell me if there's any new regulations that have come about, why we shouldn't be out at all. Let's just go and have a quick chat with him. Okay. He says nothing's changed, it's all good. They said just be careful, have some ID with you if you're out and about, and it's a lot quieter on the streets, and it isn't hard to keep your distance from people. I think what you touch and keeping your hands clean, there's an echo in here, under the bridge, is far more important. You can say what you want in the comments to me, and I do appreciate that the comments are said kindly and they're meant out of concern.
We've always been very careful. We've travelled for quite a number of years now. We're always very careful with new situations and checking that we keep things clean. And
to a point, I'm a bit paranoid. I mean, if somebody coughs down the street ahead of me and I see them, I'll cross the road.
I was just noting, actually, you were just talking about masks. A lot of people haven't got masks on, just the occasional ones.
Whoops, some dog poo on the pavement. Yeah, most people, can't see a lot of people here, most people are not wearing masks, and I think that's sensible. This building here is the Walton Hotel. It's got a plaque up there, Paul Palmer, the Italian tailor to the Ottoman Palace, and his family lived here from 1854 to 1932. Fascinating. So we're pretty much in the heart of Taksim, another 100 meters up here, so the center of one of the busiest areas of Istanbul. And I think you're going to see that it is not that busy. Now the pharmacies are open.
Oh, that one's changed again.
So they've actually put up a little tent in the reception area. I don't know if you could see that there.
The other day it was just a barrier across, so you couldn't actually go in.
And there was a sign saying one person at a time in. So they're being very cautious there.
You would be in a pharmacist,
Absolutely.
because you've got potentially sick people coming.
Yeah, front line. So shall I just keep the camera rolling
Yeah.
and see what goes on? Normally along this little road here, there's loads of little chairs. So all along here, little stools, should I say? And from here, they bring the tea. They bring the tea out, and people are just sat in the street. Hello. I do feel sorry for everybody, the taxis, the amount of businesses, small enterprises that are suffering from this. Michelle and I are trying to shop locally, buy our supplies from smaller suppliers, but the amount of businesses, this little alleyway up here is an eating alleyway. There's usually restaurants all the way up there, so nobody here to eat. Mind you, it's a horribly cold day, but that generally hasn't stopped the locals. They're hardy people, the Turkish people here in Istanbul, so they're usually out even if the weather is super cold. For those of you that have been to Istanbul, you might start to recognise, what is the name of this big street just ahead of us here, Michelle?
Something?
It's the Taksim High Street. That's what I was half expecting you to say. Michelle was going to go for the actual full name. But it runs from Taksim Square and the trams run down the middle here.
We did notice the other day that the ATMs were empty, one of them was.
Yeah, the ATMs were empty, so people had been sort of panic getting cash out, maybe. Maybe
Maybe it's always empty at the end of the week.
Yeah, maybe. Should we go up to Taksim Square?
Yes, why not?
So what can we say? What information? There's not much to report, as you can imagine. It's quite a wind today. I'm a bit worried that I'll get back. I haven't got a microphone on, and it might be all sort of windy.
It's okay this one.
It's okay, is it?
Yeah.
Takeaway food and coffee. Look here. This place is still trading. Look at that. I think I could say a little more about trying to support small businesses. I mean, a lot of people are saying to me the world's gone crazy, and it does seem a little bit like the world has gone crazy, doesn't it? Because the effects of this isolation on businesses globally around the world is going to be absolutely devastating. I mean, it's going to be shocking. The amount of money, I think even the bank scandals some years ago, it's going to pale into insignificance compared to the amount of money it's going to cost many industries for this isolation.
I think food courts and things are all closed, aren't
All the food courts are closed. It's really only places open for takeout.
they?
Some of the retail stores are still open, the clothing stores.
Ice cream one is still open.
Guy is still selling the Turkish ice cream.
I wonder whether he'll still be doing his fancy thing with handing you the cone and taking it away.
I don't think so.
Doubt it.
Come on, ice cream.
Oh, sorry.
Come on.
The weather.
Too cold.
I am not succumbing to getting ice cream in this weather. Share your thoughts. I know my thoughts. It would be strange, would it not, to put yourself in a position maybe 6 months ago and saying to world leaders and governments, the influenza flu virus is coming again this time of year, but I've got an idea how we can stop it. Because if you remember, the influenza kills close to over 500,000 people every single year around the world. And that means that 1%, it's, do the maths on how many people get infected with influenza each year. Now, if you went to the governments of the world and said to them, I've got an idea how we can stop that this year, and they said, go on then, tell us. And we said, just shut everything up. Shut down flights, shut down restaurants, shut down sports events, shut everything down. And the government would say, no, we're not doing that. And you say, well, don't you care? Don't you care about the people that are going to die? And you put that sort of pressure on a government en masse. You can't just say it, me, to the government. But you put that sort of...
Would they not listen to you?
They wouldn't listen to me, Michelle. Nobody listens to me. But could you imagine 6 months ago just saying to the government, no, we can save over 500,000 people from dying this year by shutting everything down, and you were just talking about influenza, they would think you were balmy. And I don't know how we're going to look back at this, but I do know for one thing, there's nothing we can do about it. There is nothing that we can do about it. So we just have to go along with what's happening and suffer whatever the consequences are. Michelle and I, we're trying to do what all these people are doing. You can see not lots of people out, but people coming out, getting their daily exercise and keeping their distance, which is a great thing. I mean, what would have happened if our governments had said, look, there's a dreadful new virus that's out there and we need you to be sensible, keep your hands clean, big breeze coming. You know, we need you to be sensible, wash your hands and try not to sort of gather in big groups and things. You could have a great effect, but this is very controversial and I know a lot of people disagree with me, but I think you might be quite surprised how many people do agree. But the pressure, when you turn around to a government or a group of people, let's say you were to say to me, we could save that 500,000 people this year from dying from influenza by shutting everything down. You would say to me, that's crazy, Steve. You can't do that. If I turn around to you and I say, what, don't you care about those 500,000 people? You know, there's 500,000 people there that could live another year or another, you know, quite often. Do remember that majority of people that are passing away are often quite ill. We're going past another wind tunnel. Hola. He tries every different version of hello. Bienvenue. Hola. Yeah, so the majority of people, the statistics that sadly pass away are often toward the ends of their lives anyway, or certainly sick. Look, it's not about being compassionate. You have to be compassionate about these, and I think it's so easy in today's sort of social media environment just to sort of say, you know, don't you care? You know, as soon as you pin that on somebody, don't you care? There's no answer. There's no answer. At least there's no correct answer. And that's the problem. That's what we're up against at the moment. You know, there's things going on in the world. Sorry, I'm sidetracked because there's somebody coming down with some people with a suitcase going through. Where was I, Michelle? Rambling.
Yeah, rambling, being compassionate.
Oh, let's talk about something nice.
Yes.
Let's change the subject. Enough of that. Michelle doesn't like me banging on about that nonsense. What else can we talk about? It's cold, isn't it?
It's very cold. We've got to keep walking.
Do you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to go down the hill today and get... we might go down to Karaköy.
Yep.
And walk along there. So what I might do, I'll stop for now. I'll film up at the square, Taksim Square, just so you can see how quiet it is, and then we might head down. I want to get at least 4 or 5 kilometres walking in today, make up for yesterday and perhaps tomorrow. My lord, it is cold up here. This is Taksim Square, where my Turkish friends say to me, if you throw a coin up in the air in Taksim Square, somebody will catch it. Not today. But I'm getting out of this square. It's bitterly cold. Get some protection from the buildings down here.
Hello, welcome!
Oh, it's too cold. Got my hood up. The guys are still selling the kebabs down here. Hello. Even in streets where it's a little busy, you can still keep your distance from people quite comfortably. It's no big issue. So if you can get out, and if the law permits you to get out, you know, try and get out. Oh, look. Try and get out and get some exercise. The last thing you want to do is let this have a detrimental effect on your health. Thank you, Taksim Square. You've made my head absolutely freezing. I just wanted to get a shot of Taksim, but the wind there was so bitterly cold. It's going to take ages for my head to warm up. Michelle and I, we don't have proper winter clothing. Michelle's got a jacket on there, but it's not keeping the wind out. So the local council workers still out getting their work done. I reckon today it's got to be, it feels like close to 0, but it's got to be close to 5 degrees or so. It's really cold. Our Aussie blood, it doesn't suit this sort of weather. As I said earlier on, I kind of start missing when we used to live up in Queensland and you could just slip on some sandals and outside straight away. No need to rug up at all. The donnas look good. I'm starting to get hungry, Michelle. Now, despite they're actually serving the donnas there, they're not letting you sit down. All the chairs are stacked on the table, so yeah, people are not actually sitting in there, they're just doing takeout. There's a lot of travellers in Portugal at the moment that have been told to leave, and I've watched some videos of the guy doing some major filming. So you see the big supermarkets are open. Sorry, sidetracked again. There's a lot of people who were in Portugal that have been told to leave. Now I watched them saying in videos we would be far healthier and safer to stay here in Portugal, but we're being forced to travel many hundreds, perhaps even thousands of kilometres and get in sort of social transport to head back to the country. So actually that's really detrimental. I mean, they're speaking complete common sense. It would be much safer for them to stay in their own isolation in the countries they're in. So this is another example where governments are coming up with policies that are actually possibly doing more damage than they are helping. So share with me some stories down below. I'd love to know a little bit more about what's going on maybe in your world. Now we're back in our little neighbourhood where we first arrived.
Yeah.
Look at these guys. Got a little fire going. Keep themselves warm. So yeah, this is not far from Karaköy,
Yes.
which is where we stayed when we first arrived in Istanbul, before we managed to find our apartment. Maybe get some questions going down below, and so that if we do another walk or whether we do another little video in the apartment, we can answer some of those questions about our experiences so far. But as I say, share your stories as well. I think people find it fascinating to sit and read. One of the things you really notice in Istanbul is just how many cats there are on the streets, and just how much care is taken of the cats, in so much they put little houses outside in the streets, they put food and water out for the cats. Less so the dogs. They don't have so many dogs on the street, or there are a few, but not so many. You're going to hear me say this a lot in Istanbul. The roads are really steep. And we came down here.
With our suitcases,
Yeah,
didn't we?
it's quite hard, wasn't it?
Turn it around and let it lead me down there.
Yeah, I mean, the video won't actually show how steep the road is. I say probably about maybe 20 degrees or so, about so steep. But
And the thing is, we know if we walk down a hill like this, we've got to go back up.
actually, look, it's getting steeper. And you've often got to walk in the road. There'll be areas where the pathway is clear, but I'm actually struggling. I don't know if you can see how much I'm leaning there, but I'm actually struggling to just, stop from. If I ran down this hill, you wouldn't be able to stop at all. We came down here when we first arrived in Istanbul. We came down because it looked like it was only a few hundred meters to our hotel, so we thought, oh, we'll walk down this way. And we didn't know that the hills were so steep. So we're coming down here and we're thinking, oh, I wish we got a taxi. And this isn't even one of the steeper hills. Around where we are now, behind our apartment.
There, just
What was that like?
like that.
And it was cobbles on the street. So you're walking down. You can see I'm doing that sort of jarred walking you do when you're trying to stop yourself from running. But near our apartment, there's like wet cobbles where it was raining behind the apartment. That was quite hard work, wasn't it?
Very hard.
Oh.
That
Okay,
happens.
you go that way, I think. Didn't expect that. Mind, we should expect it. I did that last week. So now we're right near our first hotel where we stayed. Another beautiful mosque here, and this is Karaköy. Probably not pronouncing it correctly. Hello, pussies. Are you getting plenty of food? Are you? Harman Sokak. Are they getting fed, do you think? Michelle, have you heard anything?
I did read that the local councils were putting out food for the cats because people aren't going out so much, so they're not putting out the food themselves, so the councils are doing it.
Because normally people put food out every day, they put out water, but they're quite often shopkeepers and cafe owners. So they love their cats here in Istanbul. There are thousands of them all over the streets, and generally people don't keep their cats indoors, but they do love to feed the cats that are out on the street. So we're going to head into Karaköy, and I suspect it's mostly closed, but we're not doing this really to show you about. We're doing this to get some exercise.
Just went for a walk.
Yeah, we just need to get out. Now I know it'll be a little controversial. Some people are saying, you know, you shouldn't go out unnecessarily, but what are your thoughts? I mean, my thoughts are, as long as you keep your distance from people, it's better to go and get some exercise every single day. I know I've said it before in this video, but I think it's better to go out and get some exercise and fresh air. I don't want a mask over my face, making it all damp, and I don't want to be sort of pulling a mask away, because you'll notice, if you see in the video, that I'm keeping my hands away from my face. So we have some hand sanitizer that we can clean our hands with, but when we get back to the apartment, we'll give ourselves a good clean up before we touch anything. Now the trams and all the bus services are still running throughout Istanbul. So all the street cleaners, all the sanitation people are still out and about. Now there was, a few days ago, there were 3 nights.
It was over the weekend.
Was it over the weekend?
Yeah.
3 nights where people would come out. The government had said, why don't you just come out on the balconies 9 o'clock every night and clap. Just clap and applaud. Not anybody particularly, but just to show a solidarity and appreciation for all the workers that are keeping the city clean. And it was really interesting. Down our street, 9 o'clock, spot on, people would go out onto the balcony and clap. And after we understood what was going on, we did too. Wow. This street, it's like a ghost town. Now it could be the time of day, certainly. Probably not, actually, because this is all cafes, isn't it?
It's a real tourist area, this, so I think you're probably not getting locals shopping here, so they're mainly tourists, and as there are probably not so many tourists.
Yeah, compared to where we're up the hill, where there's a lot of locals walking around, this is really a tourist area, and it's shut down now. Notably, the Starbucks closed down really quickly. Virtually the day it was announced, Starbucks shut down, whereas most of these cafes down here were still open for 2 or 3 days after Starbucks had closed. There's another cat looking for food. The Simit baker.
That's closed.
Now that's unusual. There's a baker there, and he's a Simit baker, but he's closed. Now almost none of the Simit bakers, so it goes to show this place is really touristy, because almost none of the bakers that we've passed on this walk are closed. So I'm guessing he's closed because really he can't get any business, because none of the tourists are coming down here whatsoever. This is eerily quiet. So these little restaurants here, some of our favourite restaurants, they're all shut down. It's kind of eerie that the most busy areas in Istanbul, because of tourism, are now the most quiet areas. And it makes sense. There's even a sock supermarket here. Now the supermarkets, they will stay open. Oh, hello. Are you getting what? Getting plenty of food? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Beautiful. So yes, that supermarket compared to the one up near us is very quiet. Look at some of the street art here. Some beautiful street art in Istanbul. Now I should be fair that actually it's a Wednesday, it's midday, and actually this part of town during the middle of the week when we've been down before is quite quiet anyway.
It doesn't really kick off to about at least 5-6 o'clock. So.
Yeah. So
but it looks like everything's really closed up there, isn't
I don't think it'll get busier in the evening, not today, that's for sure. This is Michelle and I's favourite little Turkish delight shop. We buy here almost every time we go past. I might get a little bit, Michelle. Tempted. I love the Turkish delight here. And they are open. you. Beautiful.
It looks like a nugget, but it is Turkish delight, isn't it?
Oh. They always let you sample in here, and we always buy. Thank you, buddy. So we're going to get some Turkish baklava as well. It's not going to save these businesses, but it helps a little bit, hopefully. 22 for
that one.
This is Turkish delight with pomegranate and pistachio, and then
12.50 and 17.
so 12.50 and 17 for the beautiful, I mean absolutely delicious baklava. So even though we've come out for a walk again, Michelle, we've come back with something unhealthy, but it's delicious.
It's delicious, and we do eat it slowly.
We don't eat it. Sometimes that'll last a couple of hours.
A couple of days.
It's so delicious. I love it. Now these are still open. These cafes along here, but they're just doing takeout. So this place, you can normally not even get into this place. It's so busy. To be fair again though, Michelle, it's not busy during the week. No, it's not as busy during. On a weekend, you can't get in these places. But
it's cold today, so even less. It's cold today, so even less people.
Yeah, it's cold, but look, we took our new friends into this place last week. So Chris and Marianne, we went in there last week to show them, and it's like a Harrods sort of delicatessen. It's absolutely delicious. The fishermen are still out.
Cat's got a whole fish.
And of course, the cats know where they can get food. So all the fishermen are out on the dock side. If we don't go into a complete lockdown, Michelle and I will get the ferry and go over to the Asian side. I just caught a little fish.
Yes.
Hello, fella.
Where are you from?
Australia.
Australia.
A little fish for a big rod.
Big rod, little fish. But it won't go to waste.
Sure.
Do you think the ferries are running?
I believe they are. I think they've just slowed them down a bit because there's not so many people.
Absolutely. There's nobody here using the sort of tourist facilities like the ferries. So I'm sure they're still running, but they can't
See them
be.
out. They are out there.
Okay, well, you won't see on this camera, it's far too wide, but there are ferries out there. But I think they'll be running a much reduced service because of just the numbers. You might wonder, where are we walking? Are we just walking randomly? We're kind of doing a big loop from our apartment, which is way the other side of Taksim, all the way down to Karaköy, and we're just sort of looping around. We go past Galata Tower and then back up. So it's quite a long walk. I think it's a good maybe 5 kilometers. And just for the exercise. And actually the last part of this journey is going to be all back uphill. So this is Galata Bridge behind us. Just in the distance there you can see Galata Tower. Is it Galata or Gelata? I don't know. We're going to cross under the road. There's these great little underpasses in Istanbul, and because they're great businessmen, the Turks, there's lots of little shops under here. All these little retail shops, and nobody's shopping. I think, Michelle, we need to do a bit of a power walk now because it's mainly uphill all the way back. So I'm going to put the camera down. We're going to walk with a bit more sort of determination, get the old blood flowing, and then if I see something interesting I'll film it, but if not I'll talk to you when we get back in the apartment. Now here's a good example. Everybody's on this side of the street. Now on this side of the street, probably for good reason, construction ahead of us. Yeah, we've got to cross back over. I did wonder why everyone was on this side of the street, and probably just to show you that Michelle and I are actually going at some pace now. So I wasn't just saying that we're going to walk, sort of power walk back to the apartment. We actually are getting lots of lovely fresh air into our lungs. I've noticed possibly less than 10% of local people are wearing face masks. But I do think, I should probably add this, that some of them that are wearing face masks are often the ones that are walking close to everybody. I think another problem with face masks is it can give you a false sense of security, perhaps. Now imagine that is just a service for sort of maintaining the fountain. I think I can smell a little bit of chemical as well, so maybe they're just flushing it through and keeping it clean. We're going to stay on this main road. We've got to go along here, round that corner, probably another couple of kilometres.
Up another hill.
Up the hill?
Up another hill.
Up the big hill. These beautiful buildings along the front here. The architecture here in Istanbul is amazing. It goes from stunning to completely collapsing. For example, just behind that beautiful building, look at this mosque, tiny little mosque here. Saban Kaptan Kami. Just tucked away in that little alleyway from where we were looking over there. Talking of mosques, the mosques have been told to stop calling people to prayer, so they're still doing the call, but I think people are not advised to actually gather in the mosque. I think that's what's happening at the moment. Oh yeah, beautiful. Another pussycat, black one this time. So we've had a ginger and a black. Is that lucky or bad luck? To me, it's lucky whenever you see a cat. And we're back. That was a long, cold walk, probably more than 2Ks, closer to 3. But will you look at these baklava full of pistachio nuts? Look, I hope you've enjoyed this little wander around. Look, I know it can be a bit negative in these days, and we're just trying to share a little bit of what's happening with us and find out what's happening with you. We'll do another video shortly. Whether we'll go out or not, if the weather picks up, we definitely will, as long as the law permits us to. In the meantime, Michelle and I are going to enjoy our coffee and baklava, maybe even a little bit of Turkish delight. Love to you all, take care, and we will see you. Well, I'll try and get this video up for tomorrow if I can, or late tonight.
Well, you do really well with the editing. It's the internet that's the problem.
Yeah, it might take more than a day to upload, but if I can squeeze it up there, make it small enough so it goes up quickly enough, you'll be seeing it on Thursday. So, love to you all, be good, and we'll see you again for another update from Istanbul, Turkey very shortly. Be good.